All right, everybody, welcome to this presentation on Squad in Theory. So this is a guide about Squad, a video game made by OWI and its current version 8.2 as of March 2025. This guide will heavily focus on infantry team play and coordination. Many of the things that you will see here have been learned by the Sierra-Zulu community playing organized scrims. There are also significant contributions from the competitive community. The voiceover you're listening to is done by Haebyong Dance. So whenever the narrator says words like I or we, it is referring to the Sierra-Zulu community and the author of this presentation, Brett. So first, I'd like to thank the members of the competitive community that spent hours helping us both as opponents and mentors, in particular Zero, Italiano, Wookie, Childish Fiend, and E1. However, this is not a guide of how to be a competitive team, but many competitors will recognize the concepts in these slides. This guide will also not cover armor. It's not that it's not important, we just weren't good at it. These games were played 48 versus 48 on RAS maps with Fog of War turned off and using all offensive battalions. There were no rules for the matches besides no radio glitches or skyboxing. So back to what this guide is. There are many great guides out there that cover important subjects in Squad, but I have felt that there were no guides that answer the question, how is a fully coordinated team organized? So, team organization. If you and 47 other friends want to play against another Squad community, you will create a roster somewhere in a document. Google Sheets is commonly used in the Squad community. So we're going to use Google Sheets to give names to our different Squad types and their different roles within the larger 39-man infantry component of the team. The beauty of this roster is that it communicates a lot of information to players who have the necessary experience in the competitive scene. So here we've created a roster with Squad players, kits, and most importantly, Squad names. You can see the map control infantry up top, specialist infantry in the middle, and the armor in the bottom. The Squad names that you see here will function as a guide for the remainder of these slides. In the next few slides, we're going to focus on the flex squads and the frontline squads that make up the map control infantry. We will not talk about specialist infantry or armor. First, however, we need to define a basic conceptual space, which will help illustrate coordination. Map control can also be simply defined. The team with more rallies down has better map control. Creating a roster for a team event is commonly used to track attendance and who gets what vehicles. For the purpose of these slides, we are going to utilize a 48-player team. In our 48-person team, 28 players will be focused on map control. Here they are represented contextually as percentages for simplification. Map control infantry is the focus of the majority of every team, regardless of player count. In our example, 3 out of every 5 players is focused on the concept of map control. It's really that important and one of the least understood concepts of the game. Remember, the team with more rallies down wins the map control fight. We start with a very basic concept of the game of Squad. 2 points that are equal because they are defined only by an arbitrary edge of the map and nothing else. We will ignore lots of things that should be considered, but only briefly. In our example, the green diamond represents an area we wish to defend, and the red diamond is the area we wish to capture. The area between and around these two locations represents the middle or mid for short. This fight is best understood as the map control fight. To keep this training brief, we will skip over specific examples and instead focus on concepts. It is important that squad leaders understand specific strategies that multiple squads can coordinate in real time. So next, we have to define the battle space. Who fights for map control? In our first slide, the colored diamonds represented points we want to defend and take. These could be captured points or they could be habs, but we will keep it simple as singular points. This is because we have added complexity with our 28 players from our roster that are purely focused on map control. Within the map control squads, there are 2 types of squads. We call them flex squads and frontline squads. But for our example, it is important to know that a frontline has 6 players and a flex has 5 players as we have defined them. These squads fill unique roles within the map control infantry definition. These 28 players will be represented as colored boxes that act as a single object on our map. Blue and green boxes are frontline, while red and orange represents flex. To keep our example simple, our squads will move about freely within our box almost as checker pieces on a board. And to continue to simplify our example, we will not consider any players outside of the 28 and will assume no spawn points on the map. When does the mid fight start? In a game of RAS, the middle fight starts when both teams know where the enemy held point is. Establishing map control is key, but first we will go over a scenario that will happen in most games of RAS. We will assume that our orange flex squad is out of play because it was backcapping. We will also assume that our team had an advantage in positioning our squads in ideal starting locations, as shown here on the map. In summary, we have 23 players in the field, in 4 squads that need to establish map control between our green and red diamonds. The frontline squads should push through the middle to the enemy point. In the competitive community, this is known as grinding the middle. This fight is best described as the fight that is coordinated heavily in local chat. This is represented by the front lines pushing toward the red diamond. How does the mid fight change? The weakness of our model is that it has the complexity of a game of checkers. No consideration is given to spawn points, the terrain, or vehicles. Squad leaders should have an understanding that their squad's positioning needs to be closely coordinated with other map control squads. In our picture, we've added enemy squads that are gray and black. The goal of both teams is to collapse the opponent's front line so that they control less and less of the map. This is done with rally placement. The larger frontline squads should focus on placing rallies to support their lane. In conclusion, we have defined our mid, where both teams will fight for map control between 2 points. The goal is to push the enemy all the way back to the point they are trying to defend. This scenario shown here, our team has surrounded the enemy next to their point so that we have met the win condition by establishing better map control. In a real game, this scenario is when players are defending the immediate area around the fob. Any team in this situation has lost map control. A fob proxy and then a full wipe is likely. When we consider our model with a real game, you can see where our model breaks. No consideration has been given to respawns. The respawn mechanic is a fundamental part of squad that teams need to actively manage via a good spawn network. Training methodology. During our time in the Sierra-Zulu community, I was introduced the concept that squad at its most basic level is a game of math. I believe this is a very succinct description of squad. Squad at the most basic level is a game of checkers. Eliminate their pieces to take control of the board, or in case of squad, the capture point. The next 2 slides will introduce the concepts of 100% rally uptime and a good hab. While these slides are brief, it is the first opportunity to include some fundamental lessons the Sierra-Zulu community learned while playing during our scrims and reviewing footage of games and learning from the Op4. The slides are not meant to be all-inclusive for high-level organized scrim strategies, but instead represent an improvement of most public games. 100% rally uptime. The team with the stronger respawn network should win the scrim. At the highest level of competitive play, attacking the enemy spawn network is the priority over capturing a point. Deny the enemy the ability to spawn and you will win. Look at your public games to test this theory. The team that has more rallies down near habs and capture points is more likely to win. The win condition for our map model is the proxying of the enemy's fob for a certain time period. The obvious counter to this is good rally placement to support the front line and protect or retake the fob. Maybe one day someone will find a way to measure how often every infantry squad has a rally down and what the relationship to win percentage is. But for now, we will assume that the team with more rallies down will have better map control. Placing a good hab. This debate seems eternal to the current iteration of squad. Where should a fob be placed? It's pretty simple. The fob should be placed in a defensible location and be protected by at least 3 rallies. A defensible location for a fob to be placed is a covered location with multiple exits and terrain that infantry can use to move to relevant areas. There should be no major obstacles between the hab and the defense flag. Examples of major obstacles are roads, fields, or bodies of water. In addition to being a team-wide spawn point, the radio provides a repair station as well as mortars.